Well, thanks all for coming. Much appreciated. Thank you for anyone who's watching this at home on Japanmo TV. Some of you might have heard a little bit about what I'm about to talk about already, because I have spoken quite a lot about this in online at the moment, if you follow the blog and the TV channel. This is basically giving you all the details of what's happened to me and the new developments, and expanding a little bit on the issues raised during my experience. As Kathy said, you know, my name is Ben Emlyn-Jones. I was a hospital porter with over 20 years of trouble-free service. Not only was it trouble-free, I should actually add that my service has been described as exemplary. I was extremely dedicated and was one of the most experienced staff members, and even though I was a basic grade porter and was never promoted above the basic grade, I was involved in training, in health and safety activities, manual handling training. Basically, whenever a new porter started, they usually gave me the job of training them up as a new member of staff, because of my experience and my ability to communicate that experience to other people, because I knew the hospital so well. I mean, that's simply a fact. You know, I was a very good member of staff, in all modesty. I had a lot of respect from other people at the hospital, both the staff and the patients, and had a lot of friends there, and I miss them a lot. I do miss them a lot, but I'm staying in touch with them, you know, and a lot of them have been very supportive over what's happened to me too. I have to excuse me. So I've not actually done a live lecture before, so bear with me. I'm just keep checking what I have to say next. I'll get used to it, it's alright. As well as being a hospital porter, I'm also a person who has an interest in paranormal phenomena and government cover-ups, and the blog and the TV channel and the franchise itself is about that. Japanmo stands for Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. But anyone can join, even if you're only a civilian, I don't mind. Yeah, I've been doing this for about 5 years, as well as on top of what I'm doing now. And I've been very public about it, and that's an important point which I'm going to come to later. But it's best to start really at the beginning of the experience I'm going to discuss this afternoon. Best start at the beginning. When all this trouble I've had kicked off was on the 18th of October last year. I was called into the office on a night shift. The head porter turned up at 10 o'clock in the evening, and basically he called me into the office and said, "Ben, I'm sorry, I've got to suspend you from duty." And I was forced to hand over my ID card, and I was basically given I had to hand over contact details, and then they escorted me off the premises. I mean, my first reaction was utter shock. I just said, "Why? What's going on?" And she says, "I can't tell you, but it's related to the internet, but I can't tell you." Basically, I walked home in a bit of a stupor. I got home, I picked up the phone, I called my girlfriend in Nottingham, almost wept down the phone to her. I don't think I slept for about 2 nights. I was just sitting there going through my head, what the hell's going on? What the hell's going on? Internet related? And I thought, someone's been playing poker again, because there was an incident at the hospital, the last time someone was in trouble, they weren't sacked in the end, they were suspended, was they were actually playing internet poker on the hospital computers, and they got into trouble for that. You know? And I thought, is someone going to accuse me of that? I don't play internet poker ever. And they made me wait an entire week, and then they sent a letter in saying, "We want you to attend an investigation meeting." So I went into this investigation meeting. It was attended by 3 officers from the Trust Central Management, and they gave me basically a short list of a summary of the charges against me. And this wasn't a complete dossier of the case, that came later, but they basically said, the reason you're in trouble is you've done nothing wrong at work, but this is to do with conduct off duty. Your conduct off duty is offensive it is unprofessional, inappropriate, and it brings the hospital into disrepute, and it questions the ability for you to perform your duties properly. Now this is an enormous statement to make. What they're basically saying is what I do in my own time outside work has a direct impact on the ability of the hospital, not only the ability of me to do my job properly, the ability of the hospital to function. It's an enormous, very, very serious statement to make, and it's very, very rare that this happens. I mean, they gave me a copy of the NHS Disciplinary Procedures Handbook, and I looked at the chapter concerning conduct outside your working hours, and it only covered criminal activity. And an example of that would be, for instance, if, and this actually happened several years earlier, if, for instance, one of the staff was accused of abusing a child and was charged by the police for that crime, that person would be suspended from duty to protect the patients in the hospital, which is fair enough, you know. My own situation has absolutely no precedent in the policy, because it involves no criminal activity at all. And then I asked them more details, and I said, what's going on? And they said, this was on October the 25th, a week later. They said, we've received a complaint that some of your videos on YouTube are inappropriate and unprofessional, and they bring the hospital into disrepute. And I asked for some examples, and the ones they chose, I mean, if you're familiar with Panmo TV, you might know this, but there was a video I made featuring a comedy character called But You Do Nothing. And it was called Microchip on Muslim Day. Now, I'm glad you're laughing, because this video was a very blatant and not very subtle comedy satire. This is a strange thing. My character is a rather loudmouthed and obnoxious and unpleasant individual who is foul-mouthed, he smokes a fake cigarette, he wears pink sunglasses, you know. He's very obviously a figure of contempt. And I uploaded this on last September 2010. And what it was a satire of that Burner Koran Day thing. Do you remember the Burner Koran Day? Yeah. That's that idiot pastor in America decided to, on September 11th, they would burn a Koran. Now, I decided that the film I made was a satire of that man, and the point I was making was that this whole anti-Muslim stuff is problem reaction solutions, as David would call it. You know, and this was the whole point, and it's very, very obvious if you watch the film that is the case. And what's more, the film, I mean, I treat my viewers as intelligent intellectuals, and I treat them as people who are capable of more than one-dimensional thinking. And the comments I got on that video were very positive. Apart from the usual troll element, which I get all the time, people were not offended at all. People understood the humour of that video. And what's more, you know, I had positive feedback. There were no flags of the video at all. And then suddenly I got a complaint from someone saying it's racist. It's important to bear in mind that this complaint came from outside the hospital, from an unknown source. Nobody in the hospital complained about this, and my own department was not involved in the disciplinary case against me. All right. I may use some hospital terminology in what I'm speaking. If you don't understand anything, then at the end, you know, I'll take questions and you can ask me to clarify what I was talking about. But I'll try to be as comprehensive as I can. The portering department is run by a head porter and deputy head porters. They had no part to play in this disciplinary case against me. It was directly instigated by the hospital trust management, which itself is run directly from the Department of Health. Hospitals in this country are run directly from central government. There's the local health authorities now have almost been done away with, and they're not affected. You know, the primary care trusts are basically divisions of the Department of Health, which include the John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford. Another video they had a problem with was one which is called David Icke's New Book. And it was kind of an advert, a free advert I did, I hope David appreciates it, for Human Race Get Off Your Knees. And what I'm doing, I'm standing naked in front of a camera with a book, like that, over my old min wicket. And basically you don't see any more of me, much more than me, you would if I was wearing swimming trunks at the beach.
That's not one of my favourite ones, Ben.
That's not. It's not, no, it's one of my most popular ones, no. But that was apparently, the person complained about that too. That's what they told me. And, well, basically, this didn't sound, you know, it didn't sound right, what was going on. And I think this was confirmed when the third accusation that they made about me was the most outrageous and grotesque of all. It was the most hurtful and the most serious allegation of all, and it convinced me that this was an attempt to assassinate my character. It's a deliberate attempt to smear me, and that is a video I made which is called Porters, which was not part of this so-called complaint against me. It was a film I made with one of my colleagues. We made it for fun. It's a comedy video which we both decided to do for our own mutual amusement, and we both decided to upload it to the internet. And it was I don't know how many of you have seen it. I've removed it now because a member of this person's family actually contacted me privately and asked me to remove it. That's one of the many strange coincidences involved with this case. But the fact is, this man who I made this video with is registered as a vulnerable adult. He suffers from minor learning difficulties. And for this reason, they basically reduced this entire, completely innocent and fun project to me basically happy slapping him. And I was utterly appalled. You know, I said this is utter nonsense. The question then arose to me, you know, when I got my sort of senses together, I thought, why was I suspended over this? You see, when someone is suspended in the NHS, it's only when you've committed an act of gross misconduct. I mean, misconduct, what things you do wrong, they have different levels. There's serious misconduct, gross misconduct. Now, gross misconduct would be usually quite a simple affair where someone comes in, maybe slaps a patient, or steals some money from the cash box or something like that, or gets drunk on duty. In those circumstances, you would suspend that person from duty. In all likelihood, they would be dismissed. But I have not done anything like that. So, I was suspended without any discussion at all, which is very, very strange. It's important also to realise that if you're an employer, suspending a member of your staff is quite an awkward thing to do. It generates a lot of paperwork. It costs a lot of money to suspend somebody. Generates a lot of administration, a lot of hard work. If you think about it, you know, there's £20 billion was cut off the NHS budget last year. Staffing is really at an all-time low. People are very low paid. There's no money for almost anything you can imagine, and yet they considered it money well spent to suspend me for an entire week before even telling me what was wrong, and then for another 2.5 months before my hearing. This whole affair took a very long time, during which time I was on full pay, you know. If it wasn't for the circumstances, I'd quite enjoy the break, you know. It's quite good fun. I recommend it. If you know you're going to be let off at the end of it, I recommend suspension to anyone. I really do. Just do something bad, but not too bad, you know what I mean? So you can get off at the end, but go for it. It's also interesting to note that you know, couldn't you imagine how many complaints a hospital like the Oxford John Radcliffe gets? And you wouldn't believe how many. But it actually, the number of complaints and adverse incident reports that come into the office of that hospital, and the trust in general, that is, the 4 hospitals of the trust, is 30,000 per month. That's 1,000 a day. They get 1,000 complaints and adverse incident reports every day. And, you know, I can't believe it, because I actually, like I explained, I was a health and safety officer, I was a manual handling training officer. I had to fill out a few of these reports myself. And usually you got a reply back within about 2.5 months, and that was considered a suitable response time. Priority is always given to serious clinical hazards that pose a direct threat to the well-being of patients and staff and personnel. You know, those are always given priority. So usually it would be less than 2.5 months if you made a complaint of that nature. What was astonishing was that the complaint that was made against me was processed within 8 days maximum. So it was fast-tracked. It was given absolutely top priority. 8 days is maximum because there was a weekend in between and 1 day of leave for me. So it could be as little as 4 days. Again, that doesn't make sense. They bypassed all the usual procedural channels to get me suspended. And that, again, is suspicious. I'm just going to turn the video over, one moment.